Hey everyone, I got a great little update for you guys on KevBases 1.2. For those that are not familiar, KevBases are movement trades that you can use on Tabletop Simulator for Wargaming. The updates were pretty much inspired by community feedback. I've whipped up a short little YouTube tutorial, but for now, enjoy the B-roll. The first feature added is the ability to change the default base size. Right click and you'll see there's an option here, a menu option called change base. Now unfortunately they don't have the ability for have a drop down menu, which is probably the preferred solution, but since they don't have that, when you click on that it opens up a drop down box associated to the box. And if you click on this guy, you'll see all of the different supported types for the 9th age. The only thing that's missing here, and I want to thank Petilio for providing me this list, is that the only thing that's missing here are round bases, simply because the base model here is a square and all the math is done for square. So with that said, this initially is only supporting square bases. So all you have to do now, if you want to go to a 40 by 40, is go ahead and click on this guy and it becomes a 40 by 40. Okay, so for most of us that use Tabletop Simulator, we typically use rotational pivot points for our base size. And I have a pretty in-depth tutorial. You can see it at the top corner up here. But for now, let me show you real quick and fast speed how I would create these pivot points. I'd go ahead and drop them here. And then two things I can do, like and then you kind of have to rotate this 12 times. To set them at 0 degrees rotation. Now I could go ahead and drop these guys and look at that, they perfectly align, whereas in the past they would not align. That's great, but what happens if I try to use that same base for this model here and you see that it doesn't align? And that's because sometimes not everyone rotates the base front facing side of a model, and so you have this clashing of different bases. So the solution then would be simply to clone this guy and then rotate him, and then you'd have to rotate the bases here and rotate these pivot points here, and then now you have these guys looking forward. And it's not too much work, but just imagine on the base, this is one case where you have a small unit size, but what happens if you have a large unit of 25 miniatures, and you have to do that for every single miniature. So let's get rid of these guys, because I've added a capability to make our life much easier. Now if we go back to these, I'm going to create a clone here. I've added a menu option to this base called Pivot Rotation 0, and it says whatever the rotation of the degrees is. So if you hit the F10, you see that we're set at 0 degrees facing down. So if I drop this guy, which has a rotation of 0, he aligns properly. If I come over here and I right click on this guy, he changes to 90 degrees. And likewise, if I click him one more time, he increments to 180. You'll see that there. Click him one more time, he increments to 270. Click him one more time and it goes back to 0. So we're knowing that this base is a rotation of 270. We're at 90, so let's go ahead and rotate 2 more times. Now we actually have the right base size. So if we want to have 2 rank units, you'll notice that it respects the pivot point rotation size. So now you got this guy snapped here. This guy's at 0. So I go ahead and increase him here. And now we have a quick way to actually rotate our pivot points. So for me, the most exciting feature I've added is arc angles, and essentially if you right click on the bases, you'll get this thing where it says add angles, and if you go ahead and click on it, you'll get these angles. Let me scroll it down a little bit more. And again, if you right click, it says remove angles, and then remove. So essentially what these angles are the 45-degree line of sight, and then also the distance between 1 inch. So ideally, you got 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and then the yellow represents 4 inches, the blue represents 5 inches, and the red represents 6 inches. The orange and the green over here represent when when you mix these two colors, which in orange it would be the mixture of red and yellow. That's why you get the orange here to indicate that both red and yellow land on this one. So it'll be 12 inches here. So it'll be 6, 12, and then it'll be 4, 8, 12. And then the green represents where the blue and the yellow overlap. So for here I have it set up to 20. I think the final release will be up to 24 inches. I thought about making it 360, but I'm not a fan of that in UB. I think it's too busy, and there's already enough lines as it is. And in reality, you only really need 45 degrees. But give me some feedback if you guys feel that you really want the 360 or just even the 180. That's something that's doable. So on the related note, there's this enable auto. So let's go ahead and remove this right angle, and let's just say that is a toggle all and off. But let's just say that you don't want that. You want it to always be there. If you hit this enable auto line of sight, LOS, then essentially every time you hover over, you'll get your arc angles, and then if you hover away, it'll disappear. This way, like I mentioned, one of the things I didn't like is it was kind of when you need it, you really want it and you want to enable it, but in UB it just gets annoying when everything's on. You have to toggle everything on and on just to double check and whatnot. When you make your movements, you have to toggle it. It just gets super busy, and here at least now you don't have all those busy lines. I forgot to mention these straight lines. It's the disadvantage of the auto toggle here. Let me go ahead and add these. These straight lines obviously represents the edge of your base, meaning that on the forward charge, if you hit these guys, you'll know you hit them on a charge. Also, one thing I didn't show was that it actually scales with the base size. So if you go ahead and increment your size over here, you'll see that it increments as well. So in case you have 25 by 5 and 3, then this is still allows you to see the 45 degree angle for your unit. I don't have the capability for each individual model. That's something that maybe I might do in the future. Okay, the final change is an enhancement to the movement trays. Here, let me give you an example. Let's just say that after a round of combat, you were unfortunately charged by this group of razor tusks, and there's 1 remaining razor tusk and 6 remaining wild herds. You find yourself that you're out of placement of 2 guys, right? You got 4 in contact, 2 are not. So the previous behavior is when we would expand, whenever we expand, you'll notice how it grows on the sides. And likewise, it also grew in the front and in the back. And so what I've changed now is the sides still grow, outwards on each side evenly. But the back now no longer moves forward, so it doesn't crash into the unit in front of you. And let me show you what I mean. If we grow the base, you'll see how the base expanded by a full rank. And then you could go ahead and grab your models, line them up, and then shrink your ranks. That's it for now. I want to thank everyone for hitting that like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.